r/askreddit. What's the weirdest thing you have ever walked in on? My son trying to look at his butthole with a webcam. Concise yet illustrative. NSA agent powers off his monitor as boss comes walking by. Who among us hasn't wondered what our own butthole looks like? Walked into a classroom and found out that a 13-year-old had my staff photo as his desktop picture. Congrats on being the favorite teacher. For various reasons. How many times do you suppose he has yanked it while thinking about you? I went to the wrong house party across the street from the one I was invited to. Everyone, 6-7 people, were super chill and included me. I had no idea I didn't belong. It was actually a lot more genuine than where I went after I figured it out. I had something like that happen my freshman year of college. It was 2 houses left of where I should have been. Welp, cops came. I didn't know anyone, didn't have any drinks. The cops said if everyone cleared out in 30 or less, no ticket on the house. Well, my smartass said I've got 4 seats in my car and I'm sober. Find people that live close to you and I'll drive you. I made 4 rounds, made friends, got $15, a pack of cigs, a shake and fries from McDonald's, last group, and the homeowners invited me to the next party since I saved them from a $540. Did the same except it was to avoid shitting my pants massively hungover. Maid type lady who didn't speak my language seemed pretty confused when I was at the door and then entered the house. Boss called me asking where I was and I told him in the bathroom. He advised me I was currently shitting in the wrong house. Very odd yet thankful by while walking out the door, but nothing came of it. We were working across the street. When my kids were very young, 4 and 3 years old, I would bathe them together. One day I left the room for a minute and on my way back I could hear cackling laughter coming from the bathroom. I sneak up to the door and see the 4-year-old on all fours, pointing his butt at the 3-year-old, who was behind him with his index finger extended as if he was going to poke his brother right in the butthole. The 4-year-old said go on, touch it, and as the 3-year-old moved his finger closer, the 4-year-old farted. They both cackled like mad. They didn't bathe together after that. Edit, bath to bathe. Great story to tell in a few years, upon having their girlfriends, boyfriends, for dinner. Real life Terrence and Philip right there. I work in a hotel, and a guest asked for a coffee maker to be brought up as we didn't have them in every room. I knocked on the door a couple of times, as we're supposed to do, and didn't hear a response, so I cracked the door open a bit to see a stark naked man with one of those leather looking dog masks. I just froze for what felt like 8 minutes and closed the door. I just left the coffee maker outside the room. Writing that last part reminded me of this, so I guess my reply is a bit of a 2-for-1 special. I walked into the employee bathroom, which do lock, so if the handle turns I assume it's free and clear, once, and walked in on a co-worker completely naked, sitting on the toilet with all their clothes strewn about the bathroom floor. He and I haven't made eye contact in about a month and a half. I used to work in a porn theater, and when we were closing off, I walked in on 2 dudes, one elbow deep in the other one's ass. Waved hello with his free hand. Probably one of those people who can't poop unless they are naked. I don't understand the people who get naked to poop, let alone those who do that in public specifically. I have 8 siblings, so I've seen far too many things I wish I'd never seen. The first one that comes to mind is the time I went into the kitchen and my little brother was on all fours, wearing nothing but a pink belt around his midsection and a pair of my mother's shoes, face down in the cat's food dish, eating its food. How'd he turn out? 2 intoxicated homeless folks, male and female, fugging underneath a tree on the college campus I work security at. It probably could have been narrated by David Attenborough for how raw and wild it was. Here we see the Lacus domesticus fornicating with its mate. As it consumes more alcohol, the passion becomes more intense and the duo become more ignorant of their surroundings. The lice simply add to the physical sensation. Homeless sex sounds next level. Me too. I was at the duck pond trying to paint trees for my ink painting class, and this homeless couple were going at it under a really nice picturesque willow. Pick a tree that doesn't have such great composition and line next time, folks. I have homework. Probably my dad blow drying his pubes in the mirror. My mom absolutely lost it cracking up and I can never get the image out of my brain no matter how hard I try. But have ya tried it yourself? When I was a kid we had a family reunion in Oklahoma for a few days. One night, I got tired of laying awake in my sleeping bag and went to find my cousins. They were crowded around a dead snake, as one of the older girls was mid-dissection. There was blood everywhere, considering they had just recently killed the snake and the muscles were still twitching. She told me she had done this a million times and was practicing for when she became a vet. I just went back inside. A vet or a serial killer? Oklahoma resident here. Just wanted to say that this is not a normal activity here. Your cousins are a special kind of crazy. So, did she become a vet, or a serial killer? This was way back when my siblings and I still lived with our parents. I once walked in on my sister who had just gotten out of the shower. Everything was chill until the dildo she had just been using fell out of her vagina. She later told me she didn't have enough time to hide it. The only thing I could think to say was I'm scarred for life and I ran out. Edit. For all of you suckers in the comments, I'm female too. We shared a room. Yes, she was wearing a towel. This isn't how the videos I watch on the internet normally go. I mean, she hid it. It just didn't stay hidden. Fell out of her vagina. I mean, how can you know it was her vagina? My mom walked in on my friend and I playing with each other's boobs. Not in a sexual way. We were laying on our sides and noticed our boobs got all squished. So we stuck a hand in between each other's and made them clap. Mom walked in, saw us, and said okay then. I tried to explain and she put her hand up and said, I don't even want to know. Then she shut the door and walked out. It's all fine till you start playing with your homies' boobs dicks. Holy shit, you reminded me of something I'd long forgotten. Me and my friend were both 14 and decided to play chicken. You slowly run your hand up each other's legs and it's a game of waiting who will stop first. The guy who's gonna touch another guy's dick or the guy who's gonna get his dick touched by a guy. We were in his room and he was putting his hand up my leg when his dad walked in. Eater, we both grew up to be straight men and never were attracted to each other. And now your mom thinks you're a lesbian. Was at a friend's place with around 6-7 of our other friends for New Year's and had to take a shit. Walked into the bathroom to discover my one friend fingering our other friend's mom. Proceeded to call him a motherfucker for the next 2 months. Only 2 months? He got off easy. Did the friend ever figure out? Walked in on a girl's father standing idly in front of the refrigerator in nothing but a pair of aged white briefs. I was 16 and not very socially experienced, particularly regarding dads in underwear, so I panicked and held up my hand to shield my own view and said something like, "Hey you hurry," and walked back into the garage. Her parents made me go home and I never went back to her house again. Why did they send you home? Not me, but a story from my ex. When I was working at a grocery store, my ex worked in produce and we had a co-worker that was really nice but something just seemed off about him. Well, one night, my ex is walking back to their back room and this guy is just standing there, his back facing the wall and his pants were down around his ankles. My ex says, "Hey buddy, what are you doing?" and the guy completely freezes. Then puts a watermelon down to the side. My ex notes the watermelon has a hole in it. He was fucking a watermelon. At least it's not a coconut. One night me and my roommate watched Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny and we specifically laughed at how funny the cock push-ups were. A few days later I walk into the dorm and his pants are down and he's flat on his belly with his arms reaching forward Superman style. He gets startled and nervously yells, "Oh hey what's up?" and pulls up his pants. Pretty sure he was attempting cock push-ups. Can you blame him though? Younger brother had a chapped butthole and my mom was powdering it for him. He was not a baby. How do you even get a chapped butthole? Had just gotten to my ex BF's home, was having tea with my grandma before. Opened the door, he was having a house party I didn't know about. People were wearing latex underwear, flaying each other and dicks hanging around. A couple was fucking violently on his bed. The husband of the girl who was having sex was watching. My ex-BF was drunk and crying in the bathroom. Very confusing. Edit. They were flogging each other, not flaying. I'm not a native English speaker, OMG. Ask him what happened. Do it for us. Do it for Reddit. I'm sorry, they were flaying each other? As in peeling off their skin? At a party with a bunch of friends. Door to the living room is closed. Open door. Half of my friends in attendance are engaged in a wild orgy. Closed door. Host of the party walks by, looking really annoyed. I think he's going to put a halt to the proceedings, but he just opens the door and tosses a box of condoms into the room, and closes the door again. Hey, safe sex is important. That host guy is a real hero. He was just annoyed he wasn't invited to his own orgy. He walked into a McDonald's bathroom while getting a coffee on my way to work last year. As I opened the door, this lady was just sitting on the toilet in the stall directly in front of the door, taking an absolutely violent shit, while purposefully holding the stall door open, and she would not break eye contact until I left her line of sight. She finished up, washed her hands and left. I swear to God, this was not some foreigner that maybe doesn't understand basic customs or whatever, it was just some 35-50-year-old white lady in Canada. Maybe it was a power move, but like, if she wanted the MCD's bathroom, man, she can have it. I mean, I've heard they make white people in other countries too. How do you know she wasn't a foreigner? If she wanted the MCD's bathroom, man, she can have it. I wonder how many other people she's had to battle for it. My friend sucked another one of my friend's dick for a couple of freezies. Not even the big ones. The dicks or the freezies? Hint, it was never about the freezies. I usually visit my grandfather on Sundays. His wife passed away in 2014 and 2016 he was diagnosed with cancer. He refused to move closer to the rest of the family so we could keep an eye on him. So once he started getting worse, we had a nurse visit him 3 times a week to check on him and take care of his medical needs related to his cancer treatment. So as I was saying, I usually visit him on Sundays. I went to his house as usual. It was like any other day. I spoke with him about an hour before I got there. I'll remember this day for the rest of my life. I arrived, walked into the living room and called for my grandpa. No answer. Check the kitchen. Not there. Check the backyard. Not there either. At this point I'm super worried. I go to his room. I open the door. I'm looking at my 84-year-old grandpa getting ridden by the nurse. That man is my fucking hero. I miss you, grandpa. 1932 to 2017. I heard that you were feeling ill. Headache, fever, and a chill. I came to help restore your plaque, cause I'm the nurse who likes to fucking boss. R.I.P. Gramps. Was at a youth Bible study in the basement at my friend's house. The adults were having a Bible study upstairs. Went upstairs for a glass of water, heard chanting. Walked into the living room to see 4 or 5 adults miming something like pulling a spear out of a kneeling person's back, whose forehead was dripping with oil. I tried to disappear, but my buddy's mom sat me down later and explained they had anointed their depressed friend with cedar oil and prayed over him, only to learn he had spiritual weapons inside him that Satan had placed there. So, they all had to pull it out, which is when I walked in. This same Bible group used to walk around our high school in the middle of the night praying for God to awaken us all. I know this because this mom invited me to come along. Charismatic Christianity is wild. That's fucked. Not really walked in on, but kind of. My wife and I found a cat on my birthday. He was junior sized, just barely older than a kitten, and pretty malnourished, so we took him home. He wasn't neutered, which is important to note. Anyway, a week or 2 later I was in bed, sleeping, when I woke up to him fidgeting around on the bed. I open my eyes and he's laying directly next to my face, fully erect, licking his kitty goods. Definitely something I'd rather walk in on than wake up to. I know that's common in dogs, but with cats it's a pretty jarring experience. Especially when it's less than 6 inches away. I had never seen a cat stick, and let me tell you, they are horrifying. Not something you want in your face. He's neutered now and we haven't had any further incidents BTW. I have watched a Chihuahua fugger Teletubby. A friend of mine was sitting with his toe in his mouth for at least 10 minutes. I guess he didn't hear me coming into his room. I just walked away. I was at a weird church where my cousin was rehearsing for a play and I wanted to pee, so I walked into the bathroom and this chubby, messy girl came out of the bathroom with her unzipped pants while eating a piece of chicken. I was like 10 and she really scared me. I'm 41 years old and that would really scare me. Before the beginning of my second year of college, my roommate transferred to another university and housing replaced him with some random transfer. He ended up being a total pain in the ass who would play on his Xbox in the room, while even talking into his mic, set multiple alarms at 4 AM and not get up, etc. After a pretty intense argument at 5 AM, I spent the week couch surfing. I had several midterms that week and needed my sleep, and began looking for somewhere else to live. Fortunately, there was an empty room in another dorm and I made the arrangements to change rooms. I spent the night in my new room and walked over to my old dorm the next morning to move out before heading home for fall break. I was nervous about my old roommate causing a scene, especially since my mom was coming down to help me move and take me back home. Instead, I walked in on him standing over my bed, masturbating over my Arduino kit and differential equations notebook. Tribute must be made. I walked in on my brother watching a chair fug in a microwave on TV. Turns out he was watching Scary Movie 5, which really is just as disturbing. Oh, I've watched Scary Movie 2. Yeah, let's just say my mom had to skip over some parts. They have tons of weird and unnecessarily long, inappropriate scenes that start to slowly get unfunny the longer they go. Walking in the woods when I was a kid and got to the playground where I was going to wait for a friend to play. Walked up to see a guy who was happily tied to the tire swing laughing and saying I am the prisoner to nobody specific. I have him a wide berth to see who I guess was his friend sliding down the slide headfirst and leaving a trail of what I guess was shit behind him. I walked to my friend's house and watched Ultraman without saying a word about what I saw. When I was 11 or 12 I walked in on my older brother masturbating. His back was turned so luckily all I saw was his ass. As I walked in on him I saw his mattress falling back into place, so being the curious child I was, I went to see what was under his mattress on a later day when he wasn't home. I was hoping for porn, cause growing up in the 90s in a religious household meant it was super hard to come by, but no. What I found was much, much worse. I found about 4 dozen little zip-top snack baggies full of cum. Edit. Thanks for the gold, you sick bastard. I'm glad my brother's shame is worth something on Reddit. God, why do I never learn to stop reading? A close friend of mine whacking it in my room, watching porn on my PC. You guys still homies? My nephew completely naked on the restroom floor screaming shit while on his iPad. No, he wasn't a toddler. I worked as a state police officer, glorified security officer, at a state-run mental facility for the criminally insane. Basically everyone that wasn't mentally fit for prison was there due to abuse of alcohol and or narcotics. While doing rounds at 2 AM I heard sounds coming from a double occupancy room. Seeing patients blasting rope or having sex is not uncommon, so I figured that's what was happening, but as per protocol I had to investigate and tell them to knock it off. I enter the room to see 2 gentlemen spooning each other in each other's asshole with plastic spoons. Going at it like they're enjoying some chocolate pudding snack packs. I don't miss that job. Not exactly walked in on, but woken up to my cousin and his GF at the time having very silent sex in the same room as me. Just rolled over to face the other side of the room and said fuck it, went back to sleep. Said fuck it. I mean, you could have just let them think you were asleep the whole time. I walked in on my brother butt ass naked, on his hands and knees, with our dog licking peanut butter off his asshole. What the actual FCK? Is that considered bestiality? I used to have this roommate whose live-in girlfriend was a real weird chick. Regularly walked around the apartment after showering with a towel on her head and around her waist, but not her chest, so yeah. Anyway, she was a DEFCON1 weeb, and had a rather sizable collection of anime and manga stuff. Like, tons of it. That, and Pocky. One evening, I came home early after getting sick at work and walked in on this girl and my roommate watching a hentai with some chick getting gangbanged by monsters and diddling each other, then proceeded to vomit again. They stopped watching their cartoon porn in the living room after that though, so that was nice. Homeless dude walked outside an IHOP and just took a shit on their doorstep. Accidentally walked in on my brother jacking it when he was 17. Totally my fault, I didn't knock. I was 15 and it just didn't occur to me that it was a possibility. I very quickly shut the door and left and pretended nothing happened because I just wanted to forget I ever saw that. He later wanted to talk about it because he is a super good person and wanted to be sure I was okay. I wanted nothing to do with that conversation. I still cringe thinking about it. There is not enough mental bleach in the world for that. It has been more than 20 years and the memory still makes me want to put my brain in a frying pan. Huh. A girl posing topless with a ball like the earth while being photographed in the middle of a hiking trail in an urban national park. It was unexpected and very strange to see. So, a globe. Turned the corner by my father's room just in time to see him rip a page out of his wicker book thing and eat it while masturbating. It's been 4 years and I still can't forget that. I just wanna know why. Walked into my college dorm. The lights were out except a few candles, and my roommate had a bunch of other people over, and they were all standing silently in a prayer circle. It was very cultish and unnerving. I was talking to my roommate while he was hungover in bed and I left his room, closing the door behind me. Maybe 5 seconds later I realized I forgot to ask him something, so I went back and opened his door. That deviant was already going at himself, laying on his side, thankfully still under the covers, watching porn on his laptop on his nightstand. His reaction is what turned an otherwise uncomfortable situation into something I still laugh about 10 years later. It wasn't shock, surprise, or even embarrassment. It was disappointment. Disappointment in any. Like how you'd react when you tell a toddler not to do something and they do it anyway. He just said, "Sigh, dude, I'm jacking off." I stood in the doorway laughing for a minute, made fun of him for being such an animal that I was barely out of the door before he pounced on himself, and at the same time so lazy he couldn't even get his hungover ass out of bed to lock the door first. His door was right by the TV in our living room, where other roommates were hanging out, so it would have been wise. Anyway, jacking off isn't that weird, but I enjoy telling mutual friends that story. While working in the ER, some patient got a sex toy lost up in the rectum. Instead of surgery, the ER doctor attempted to remove it. He is an experienced ER doctor, probably 30 plus years in the ER and has done everything. He'd save the patient from surgery and would be able to leave that night. The patient sedated with pretty powerful sedatives, propofol, and the procedure began. I'm down the hall and I hear screaming, so I briskly jog over to the room and walk in. What I see is a 70-year-old doctor past elbow deep in some man's rectum. It looks like he was a ventriloquist with a 200-pound doll performing a horror show. The man was screaming in a half stupor. He wasn't conscious, but he certainly wasn't unconscious. The doctor was yelling, "More propofol, push it now." The patient ended up going to surgery to get the sex toy removed. In college there was a black girl that guys would try hook up with only when they were drunk. There was a black guy that thought he was super cool and a total ladies man, eventually started dating aforementioned girl. He was roommates with a heavy-set super shy white guy, assumed virgin. There was a total stoner Middle Eastern bro that shared a unit with them as well. I was there, had to deliver something to them one day. Walk into common area, was pointed to their room. Door is open, so I just walk in. Cool dude is sitting in a chair in the corner smoking, obviously high out of his mind. His girl is kneeling on the floor with her upper body on the bed. Stoner bro is sitting on the bed with her head in his crotch. White dude is behind her just slamming. He is going to town like he's waited for this moment his entire life. Took a moment for my brain to register they all still had their clothes on. We rent a room to a friend of my wife's. She poops with the light off and the door about 6 inches open. I don't use that bathroom anymore unless I know where she is in the house. She gives zero fucks and thinks it's funny. When I was a teacher in Japan, I had an empty classroom I used to do my work in. Occasionally teachers would come in and do some work as well, but for the most part I was alone in there most of the day if I didn't have a class. I walked in one day and a teacher and a student were in there having a heated argument. The teacher was basically screaming, "What is wrong with?" and the student responded, "STFU." The teacher then grabbed the student by the back of the head and slammed his head onto a desk. It was loud and I was pretty shocked. I basically did the Homer Simpson into the bushes. I don't even think they saw me, haha. Walked in on my best friend nailing his GF from behind. Smiling, he just looked at me and without hesitation said, "Oh shit, the clap 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 never stopped." I just shut the door laughing and heard him laughing over more clap 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 as I walked away. SMH. Two people having 69 in the area on the highway where you stop to take rest and refresh. When I was 6 I needed help with HW and walked into my dad eating my mom's ass. I was like, what the fuck, and somehow just remembered it while reading this question. Was staying at home during break from graduate school. When I come home maybe at 10:30 at night to my old bedroom. My 15-year-old high school dropout sister is cuddling on my bed watching my television with a midget person with achondroplasia and some other girl wearing a dog collar. The midget was holding a leash. It was like some sort of twisted Hot Topic advertisement. I said, "Some things just can't be unseen," and walked out. Edit. Come to think of it, my adventures working for the Veterans Administration Hospital had a lot of interesting things that I saw. I think my favorite was walking in on a veteran in his hospital bed with a prostitute in the middle of the day. Imagine a big group of doctors and medical students in white coats walking in on some grizzly Vietnam vet getting a blowjob. The most memorable was coming at 6:30 in the morning to interview a patient who I think was admitted for some liver problem. He's sitting up in bed kind of staring at the wall. It's dark, but there is some natural daylight so I don't bother turning on the lights. I noticed that there are all sorts of wrappers and garbage for medical supplies scattered around the table and on the floor. I also remember thinking that he looked somewhat pale. Anyhow, it turns out that he died in the middle of the night and for whatever reason he wasn't intubated, moved or anything. To this day I have no idea why he was sitting up. When I was in high school I was on the dance team. We walked into our dark locker room to find a janitor on his knees over a chair doing one of those ear candle things. All he said was "oops sorry" and walked out. About a decade ago my wife and I were out for New Year's. The bar we were at was pretty lame so we made the risky decision to try somewhere else. It was risky because it was New Year's and most places were packed or required tickets. We walked down the street and found a little club we had seen before but never tried. It was a small place that held about 50 people. We walked in and like out of a movie, the music stopped dead and everyone just froze in place staring at us with their hands still up in the jazz hands position. We were pretty drunk and just stared back in disbelief. It seemed like a minute straight before my wife said, "I don't like this, let's go." And we left. To this day I have no idea what was happening or why the bar just went silent and froze right when we walked in. When I was in my early teens, I lived in a very rural part of Middle TN. My school bus couldn't get all the way to my house due to having to cross into another county, so me and a handful of other kids got picked up at a dairy farm on the main highway, at the county line. My stepmom thought it would do me good to have a job, so she talked the owner into letting me hose out the milking stalls in the morning. First day, walked into the main barn ready to literally spray bullshit, when I see the main farmer dude up to his goddamn shoulder in a Holstein. When he pulled his arm out, it shit all over him. Like movie style, all over him. I was 13 for fuck's sake. I ain't needing to see that shit. I caught my 7 and 5-year-old daughters once with no clothes on playing with a video camera. I asked them what was going on. They said, "Don't worry, Papa. We're making a YouTube video." Not me but my friend. He walking into a McDonald's toilets to wash his hands and he hears "ugh my balls are itchy" followed by the dude making "ugh and OHH noises. My friend didn't say anything but when he went to dry his hands the dude heard it and he shut up.